Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to my next video here on Get Off My Chest. Before I begin, I want to say three things. Number one, please do consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate that if you did. It means a lot to me, definitely. When I see subscribers or adding subscribers to my channel, it just means that my videos are getting out there, and hopefully that y'all are listening. So I appreciate that. And then my second thing is thank you to our panelists and our discussers. I have their names in comment sections or in the descriptions of their video, Discourse of the Common Man. I believe it was Volume 2, where we discussed the impact of COVID on the church and just some other general questions that have gone on. So, big thank you to all who participated. And my third thing kind of linked to that is our next Discourse of the Common Man will be held on Monday, August 3rd at 4 p.m. So if you're interested, please contact me via the channel. I will reattach the email for the channel in the description below. So if you want to send either a question for the channel for an answer, maybe for a discussion point in our next discourse, or just in general, I can make a video off of some of those questions that might be asked. So I would either do that, or if you contact me through social media, you can do that as well. But either way, I would greatly appreciate it if you all decided to come and join our next discourse. So again, that is August 3rd at 4 p.m. Central Time, because we're not in New York or LA or Las Vegas. So, after my two-part series, I really kind of didn't have any topics I wanted to discuss for a while, just because I had, I felt like, I'd said what I needed to say and just kind of step back. And then, lo and behold, Disney Plus adds Hamilton, the Broadway musical, to the streaming service. And, I've already heard the music is phenomenal, which I'll get to in a minute. And so I decided, what the heck, I'll watch it. I watched it with my brother, my sister, and my parents, and my grandparents. So we were on vacation during the time, so we kind of got to watch it together and kind of see the progression. I mean, definitely kind of seeing it puts everything into perspective versus just listening to it. So overall, I mean, I have participated in some facet or another. When I was in high school, 8 productions, I believe. It was about 7 or 8. And then I have been to Broadway twice. I've seen 3 shows. I saw Matilda on Broadway. I saw Mean Girls on Broadway, which is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen, maybe ever. And then Dear Evan Hansen. And then I've seen Newsies and Shrek the Musical on Netflix. I think they had it, and they have Newsies on Disney Plus now. And now I get to see Hamilton, or I saw Hamilton on Disney Plus as well. And I'll give my rating for it at the end, but I want to say like maybe 3 or 4 things that I liked about it, and maybe 2 or 3 things that I disliked about it. So we'll start with the things that I liked. Number 1, the story. I like the historical accuracy. For the most part, I mean, there were obviously, some things that Lin-Manuel Miranda added in, but for the most part, I mean, it was very historically accurate. I think that, that's important, especially with a play like that, that could have twisted a lot of things, but they didn't. They stayed consistent with the storyline of Alexander Hamilton's life, and I think that's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, in the days where we're kind of, attempting to tear parts of history away, or as some would see it, tear parts of history away, it's important to keep a accurate narrative, I believe, of the story. Number 2, the music, like I said earlier, was just phenomenal. I mean, I'm not a big rap guy, I guess, as you probably tell. But, I really kind of doubted listening to him. I listened to the first soundtrack all the way through, I believe, in my junior year of high school. So it was about 3 years ago where the first time I listened to it all the way through. And it was just amazing. I was blown away by the lyrical, it was built very well. The lyrics were built very well. I'm a kind of guy that listens to the composition, like the music behind it as well, the soundtrack, if you will. That was just beautiful. I mean, everything, every instrument was used perfectly. Every voice was just amazing. Um, the way they incorporated all that in was just phenomenal. I think, that there are very few stage plays and musicals that could accomplish that now. And, to have reached the success of Hamilton is, every dream, every actor's and actress's dream. Especially, when you you do a play like that one, it's phenomenal. I was blown away by the music. Number three was the acting. I think the acting was just great. Like I said, I've been in and seen several musicals and plays, and I haven't quite. I mean, even in a musical that doesn't have any words, like you're not actually just speaking. They're all they're singing or rapping or something like that along those lines. Beatboxing every now and then. And that was that was a genius idea. First of all, second of all, I think it really kind of plays on a lot of the character development, which I'll get to in a minute as well, and just the genius of it as a whole. So number three, I think the acting was developed fantastic. Particularly, my favorite character in that was Washington. He was played by Christopher Jackson. He was fantastic. He sung really well. He had the facial expressions down. I mean, he was like bewildered when he needed to be bewildered and strong when he needed to be strong. It was fantastic. A lot of people give the nod to Jonathan Groff or Leslie Odom Jr., King George and Aaron Burr, respectively, or even Alexander Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda. But I think that Christopher Jackson blew everybody away, pun intended there, with just how he acted, how he sang. His voice, I think, is one of the best I've ever heard. And so, yeah, I think the acting was just brilliant. And number four, the thing that I liked was the genius. It was just it was down to the iota. I tell people, like, it was, even though if it wasn't historically accurate, Lin-Manuel Miranda paid attention to details that he knew would come up later. Like, you could see things happening in the background that, would, even, at the, back or upstage, it was almost like a blackout. You could still see kind of reflections. Like, there was this scene between two of the songs. It was called like a Lawrence interlude, John Lawrence, who was killed. And it shows John Lawrence singing one of the songs, Eliza reading the letter that announced Lawrence's death to Hamilton. Then it has two of the characters. It has Mulligan and Lafayette on the top reading the same letter. So I think that's just one example. There are definitely more examples that I could go into for that, but that was one of the ones that I noticed in particular. That was really, it's just the genius of it and how you draw it out. It was phenomenal. So yeah, those are the four things I liked about it. Maybe one of the two things that I disliked about it was the. It was the political aspect of it. I don't know. I think I kind of had sour feelings before I listened to the musical for the first time, just because I had heard of the Hamilton cast. While Vice President Mike Pence was in the stand or in the House, they called him out, insulted him basically, and they refused to take any of that back. So as a conservative, I kind of I didn't like that. But it was their right to free speech, so I wasn't like stop them from saying anything. So I kind of had sour feelings going in. I definitely warmed up to it, as you can tell. That was one of the things. There's a lot of modern ideas that were brought into it. Even America itself is a recently modern idea, I guess. We're only 200 and something years old. 250 almost. We'll be hitting soon in about 6 years. And so I think it's important to understand that in a musical based back in the late 18th, early 19th century, and for the most part, they did include a lot of those ideas. You could kind of see the modern twist as well, especially on the political stuff. So that was one I didn't like as much. And I mean, that was about it. That's kind of the one thing I noticed. Like, there was a lot of things that were maybe left out, I guess would be the right thing to say, that they should have included. There were things, maybe that Hamilton said that, actually said that weren't really included in things, maybe what he actually said about Aaron Burr and maybe even what happened to Aaron Burr, after that. And, we all know he was tried for treason, and, he lived in exile for most of his life after that. And he still served as vice president until 1804. So it's kind of interesting to see that, first of all. And then second, it was, you kind of, maybe it's supposed to leave you on the edge of your seat, right? And it was interesting. But I mean, that was probably the one thing I liked. There were times where the modern outweighed, the premise, I guess would be the right word to say. You can't have too much of a modern twist in it. But I mean, it's good to, let me say it like this. So if you can't put 2 spoonfuls of jelly on a peanut butter sandwich, if that makes sense, you put enough on there to where it tastes good. You kind of balance out the peanut butter, right? But if you put 2 scoops or 2 spoonfuls on there, it's basically just jelly, and you like your peanut butter with your jelly sandwich is what it is. You have to have the good balance between the two, and Hamilton definitely accomplished that in a lot of ways, but in a couple of instances, there was a pop up here and there. But I mean, that was really the one thing I disliked about it. I don't really know if I have two or three other things to say negatively. So overall, I mean, I would give that easily 4.7 out of 5, or even like a 9.7 out of 10. It was everything you hope to be in a Broadway show, especially one about Hamilton or one of the founding fathers. So overall, I thought it was very brilliant. I've definitely, I would watch it again. Obviously they have it on Disney Plus, so I can watch it all the time. I can watch it again. I can listen to the music. I listen to the music a lot. There are songs in there that I like in particular. And that's, you can still understand the storyline very well. And so overall, it was probably one of the best shows that I have seen. And I would definitely recommend it to those who haven't seen it yet. So I think that's going to include my thoughts on Hamilton. So thank you again for listening. Please watch and please don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will see you likely on August 3rd. I might come out with another video before then, but I haven't decided on what to talk about yet. So with that said, thank you guys very much, and God bless.